A flavor's job is to provide taste. If it does that, it's a flavor. Whether it rode in on a carrier, saw a solvent, or came out of a fermentation tank matters less than what it does on the tongue. The door that opens isn't a loophole, it's a hallway the industry builds into a boulevard. Inside, a new hierarchy forms: natural, nature-identical, artificial. Consumers don't see the footnotes, they see one word. There's a deeper shift happening in the pantry. When taste stabilizes, memory stabilizes. The brain ties brand to feeling. If every cookie tastes the same in every city, a company owns a piece of your childhood with inventory control. That's power you can roll out globally. Flavor houses become partners in expansion. A strawberry for dairy in Europe isn't the same strawberry that survives hot-filled beverages in Asia. One house can tune both and hand a client a family of signatures knit together by a few core molecules. This is the moment the natural label meets industrial reality. The word promises orchards. The recipe requires engineering. And 3 molecules, one sweet, one savory, one green, become the fastest way to carry that promise across oceans. The legal magic trick. What natural flavor really means. To understand the glow around that single word, we need to read the fine print the way a lawyer does and a shopper doesn't. In US regulation, flavor is defined by what it does, provide taste, rather than how it got to your spoon. If its function is flavor, it lives under a different set of rules. And natural doesn't mean a strawberry was squeezed into your yogurt. It means the flavoring constituents came from plant or animal material, or from processes the law treats as nature-adjacent. Here's the hinge. The FDA, 21 CFR 101.22, lets natural flavor include essential oils, oleoresins, distillates, and products of roasting, heating, or enzymolysis. It can ride on carriers. It can be dissolved in solvents. It can be built through fermentation. If the active flavor constituents trace back to a natural source or a process treated as nature-adjacent, the label can say natural flavor. The shopper sees a field. The chemist sees a flowchart. A flavorist can take a cheap sugar beet or rice bran side stream, coax microbes to turn ferulic acid into vanillin, purify the crystals, and blend them into a dairy-stable system with an approved carrier. On a package, that's natural flavor. The same vanillin made from petrochemical guaiacol would be artificial, even though the molecule on your tongue is identical. Your receptors don't check passports. The label does. There's a second door: enzymes and yeast. If you break down proteins with enzymes to free glutamate, you can list yeast extract or hydrolyzed vegetable protein and still claim no MSG added. It's accurate as a labeling statement. It's also incomplete contextually. The umami effect reaches the same receptor. The law separates roots. Biology doesn't. This is where solvents and carriers hide in plain sight. Natural flavor can legally include small amounts of processing aids, alcohols, glycols, emulsifiers, so long as they serve the flavor and are permitted. You won't see every helper named. You'll see the umbrella term. It was built that way, to keep formulas protected and ingredient decks short. A micro moment at a label meeting. A brand manager flips a mock-up. Can we drop artificial flavors? The regulatory lead answers. If we switch to the bioconverted vanillin and the green note from plant distillate, yes. Carriers stay inside natural flavor. The panel nods. The taste won't change. The word on the front will. Consumers read natural as better, cleaner, safer. Surveys show a halo effect. People will pay more and worry less. But natural in this context is about provenance on paper, not the presence of actual fruit, not the absence of processing. A sparkling water labeled natural lime flavor may never meet a lime. It may be a quart of terpenes and aldehydes sourced from orange peels and pine needles, rooted through a still and a spreadsheet, and legally natural. The difference with artificial flavors is, again, source. Artificial flavors may use the exact molecules made by different chemistry. On the tongue, cis-3-hexenol from cut leaves and cis-3-hexenol from a synthetic root smell like fresh grass either way. In the Code of Regulations, only one can wear the natural badge. Industry lives in that seam. The carve-outs matter. Fermentation is a favorite. If a microbe can produce a target molecule starting from natural feedstocks, that output can be natural. Enzyme-tweaked citrus oils become natural grapefruit. Thermal processing creates reaction flavors, those roasted, meaty notes you taste in soups and snacks, and if the inputs are natural, the result is too. Heat, enzymes, microbe factories, all treated as extensions of nature when the inputs qualify. Now the perception gap. People imagine fewer steps, fewer vats, fewer intermediates. The truth is often more complicated. The legal framework was designed to protect trade secrets and to focus on safety and function, not to narrate the journey of each molecule. So packages tell you almost nothing. They don't have to. Natural flavor is a one-line story covering a library of roots. There's a parallel on the safety side. GRAS, generally recognized as safe. Many flavoring substances are evaluated by expert panels, industry or independent, and logged as safe at intended levels, often aligning with FEMA GRAS and international assessments. It's dose and use that matter. Again, that's functional safety, not a romance of orchards. And it leaves room for a lot of modern tools behind a single comforting word. A small example clarifies the scale. A strawberry yogurt lists milk, strawberries, sugar, natural flavor. The natural flavor can be dozens of compounds: ethyl butyrate for fruit brightness, vanillin for warmth, lactones for creaminess, cis-3-hexenol for fresh green lift, a whisper of sulfur for realism, all sourced through natural roots, all dissolved in carriers, all tiny. Together they shout, strawberry. This isn't illegal sleight of hand. It's a system that matches industrial needs, consistent taste, short labels, protected IP. But it trains a palate. Over time, natural becomes a brand standard, not a farm standard. Your expectation of strawberry narrows to a reproducible chord because that's what can survive factories, shipping, and 12 months in cold chain. So when a flavorist reaches for 3 vials, sweet, savory, green, they're not being lazy. They're doing what the law rewards and the market demands. If labels won't tell you why everything tastes familiar, your tongue will. And it's about to meet the gatekeepers. The 3 chemicals. Gatekeepers of natural taste. Think of the flavor system like a mixing board. Most dials are tiny, nudging nuance. 3 are big sliders that move everything at once. Vanillin for comfort and sweetness, glutamates for savoriness and depth, and cis-3-hexenol for freshness, the green breath that makes fruit feel alive. They don't build a whole song, but they set the key. With those levers, a flavorist can align a product with what your brain reads as natural in seconds. Start with vanillin. It's the anchor that makes a cold dairy base feel warm and familiar. In a cone of real vanilla, vanillin is one voice in a chorus of more than 200 volatiles. In industry, it's the soloist. Even at microscopic levels, vanillin tells your memory, safe, sweet, home. When it's sourced through a root the law treats as natural, say, microbes fed ferulic acid from rice bran or clove-derived eugenol, it becomes a workhorse for natural labels. Your receptors don't care about the passport. Your mind cares about the association. Vanillin can soften edges in yogurt, round bitterness in protein shakes, and carry bakery notes across continents without changing planes. Then there's the savory amplifier, glutamates. On paper, monosodium glutamate is one salt of a common amino acid. On the tongue, glutamate hits the umami receptor and tells your brain this is satisfying, rich, complete. The industry play isn't to shout MSG. It's to assemble the same effect with natural building blocks, yeast extract, tomato concentrate, hydrolyzed vegetable proteins, mushroom powders, each full of free glutamate and often paired with 5 nucleotides like IMP and GMP for a 1-2 punch. You read no MSG added, which can be true, while your receptors register the same savory lift. That's not a trick of chemistry so much as a choice of root and language. Now the green note, cis-3-hexenol and its companion hexenols. One drop can turn a flat strawberry into something that smells like the fruit just split under a knife. It's the cut grass molecule, the scent of bruised leaves. In natural builds, it often comes from plant distillates or fermentation that qualify under the rules. Used right, it doesn't smell grassy. It smells like life inside fruit. Used heavy, it tips toward lawn clippings. The art is dose, microliters in a vat. The aim is a moment. First sniff, first sip, where your brain says freshly picked, even if the product never saw a field. Why these 3? They sit close to hardwired levers. Vanillin plugs into learned comfort loops around dairy and dessert. Glutamate binds a receptor that evolved to find protein and savor meat broths. Cis-3-hexenol triggers a signal your brain links to plant vitality and ripeness. They're cheap to scale, stable across categories, and incredibly flexible. That makes them perfect for a supply chain that hates surprises and a branding system that needs sameness to feel like trust. A flavorist building a natural strawberry for a yogurt starts with acid and sugar targets. They reach for ethyl butyrate to sketch fruit brightness, then slide in a trace of vanillin to warm the base, a whisper of lactones to make it creamy, and a pinprick of cis-3-hexenol to lift the first impression. If the same brand wants a savory snack with natural punch, the lab will skip MSG and use yeast extract blended with roasted onion and a touch of nucleotide. Two completely different products, one common strategy. Pull the big sliders first, then paint in detail. There's a pattern here that explains why so many natural foods taste familiar across aisles. Seltzers with lime lean on citrus terpenes, plus that green breath to read like a wedge squeezed over ice. Protein bars that threaten chalky notes get rescued by vanillin's warmth and a caramelized edge built from reaction flavors made with natural inputs. Sauces cut salt by leaning on glutamates and nucleotides to keep impact while shaving sodium. These are not accidents. They're the shortest paths to your yes. A micro story from a bench. A flavorist is asked to make a strawberry that feels farmer's market but survives pasteurization. Batch 1 leans fruity, but after heat it thins out. Batch 2 adds more ethyl butyrate to candy. Batch 3 drops the fruit note and nudges cis-3-hexenol by a hair. Suddenly the top pops, the middle holds, the panel smiles. The vanillin stays steady to keep the dairy cozy. The brief reads authentic. The spreadsheet reads hit. There are trade-offs. Relying on these gatekeepers can simplify palates. A vanilla built on vanillin alone teaches you to expect a narrower band. Savory foods tuned with yeast extract can hit hard but flatten nuance if overused. Green notes can fake freshness so well that actual ripeness has to compete. But in a market built on speed, consistency, and comfort, these molecules aren't shortcuts, they're the infrastructure. So when you taste natural across yogurt, chips, and sparkling water, you're tasting a design. 3 molecules do the heavy lifting: vanillin grounding sweetness, glutamates deepening savor, and cis-3-hexenol breathing life into fruit. They're legal, scalable, and dependable. A private language between labs and your tongue that writes the first line of almost every natural story today. Vanillin, the illusion of vanilla. Vanilla begins as a flower with a deadline. The orchid opens for a few hours. Unless a human pollinates it by hand, one flower at a time, the pod never forms. Most of the world's supply grows in Madagascar, on vines that wrap around trees and people's schedules. Storms don't care about schedules. Cyclones flatten vines, prices spike, middlemen win. Demand doesn't pause because the weather does. Ice cream companies still need vanilla to taste like vanilla in February in Denver during a promotion week. Here's where vanillin steps in, wearing the vanilla costume. In a real bean, vanillin is one of hundreds of aromatic compounds, tiny amounts of smoky, floral, spicy, even leathery notes that rise and fall as the pod cures. That complexity is what a pastry chef pays for. But industry needs a single switch that flips vanilla on in milk, in cereal, in nutrition shakes, and stays on 6 months later. Vanillin does the job. It's one molecule, reliable, and it hits the memory loop hard. Natural vanillin isn't scraped from orchids. The law allows it to be made by transforming natural feedstocks. A common route starts with ferulic acid from rice bran or corn byproducts. Microbes in stainless tanks chew it, step by step, into vanillin. Another route starts with eugenol from clove oil. Either way, the output is purified crystals, white, needle-like, and almost aggressively familiar. Put those crystals into a carrier that plays nicely with dairy fat and acidity, and you've got a natural flavor ready for 1,000,000 pints. The ice cream test gives away the gap. Take cream, sugar, a pinch of salt, split it. One batch gets a careful infusion of real vanilla, specks, tannins, awkward edges. The other gets a precise 0.05% vanillin. The second pint shouts louder on the first spoon. It reads clean, bright vanilla in quotation marks. The first pint wanders, warmth here, a woody shadow there, less efficient, more human. After a week, most supermarket tasters pick the vanillin pint as more vanilla. Efficiency trains preference. Price locks the training in. Real vanilla extract rides global risk. A bad storm doubles costs. Harvest problems make brands scramble. Vanillin rides fermentation contracts and commodity streams. Natural biovanillin undercuts extract by orders of magnitude. When your margin lives in pennies per carton, you run the math. Labels keep their halo, taste stays steady, and the savings buy an ad campaign. Meanwhile, farmers face the math too. A grower in Sava sees the sky turn black and knows what it means for next season's school fees. When vines go down, buyers switch to biovanillin without a pause. The world doesn't stop wanting vanilla cones because a sea warmed 2 degrees. The decoupling is complete. Flavor supply doesn't track landscapes anymore, it tracks reactors and logistics. Inside the lab, vanillin isn't a blunt tool, it's a color wash. In yogurt, it tucks sharp acids behind a soft curtain. In protein shakes, it distracts from the cardboard buzz of certain isolates. In cereals, a microdose turns plain into comfort. Flavorists thread it carefully. Too much and you get frosting. Too little and the dairy reads thin. They pair it with lactones that hint at coconut or peach skin to mimic vanilla's creamy edges. They anchor it with a hint of smoky phenols if the brief asks for bean-like instead of cake-like. There's also the problem of drift. Vanillin is volatile. Time, oxygen, and light push it around. A natural vanilla for ice cream needs to sit tight in frozen fat. A natural vanilla for hot-fill puddings needs to survive heat without turning bitter. Flavor houses build slightly different systems, same vanillin heartbeat, different protective shells. A global brand can move their vanilla across categories and countries because one molecule ties the family together. The palate learns the tie. Kids grow up on vanillin-forward vanilla. They love it. Put a scoop of single-origin vanilla next to their favorite cone, and the real bean might taste confusing, too woody, too quiet, too alive. That doesn't make vanillin fake. It makes it a standard that pushed the other standard to the edge of the market. Marketing leans into the comfort, made with natural flavors. Vanilla. The picture on the front shows a flower, not a fermentation tank. The claim is legal. The taste is genuine to the memory it's built. The illusion is that vanillin tastes like vanilla. The illusion is that it stands in for everything that vanilla means, a plant, a place, a season, and that there's no gap between meaning and molecule. There's a moment in every reformulation meeting when cost, supply risk, and consumer surveys line up and point to the same line item. Switching from extract to natural vanillin doesn't change the panel score. It stabilizes procurement. It tightens labels. It protects IP. It also pulls one more strand of complexity out of the food system and replaces it with something we can control. Control is the point. Vanillin gives companies control over taste, over spend, over marketing language. It gives your brain exactly what it expects when the word vanilla appears. And once that expectation sets, it travels. From cones to cookies to plant-based milks, the same molecule carries the same comfort into new spaces. The orchid keeps blooming on wrappers. The flower in the field is mostly a story now. Glutamates, building craveability without saying MSG. Sweetness coaxes, umami convinces. When vanillin carries comfort, glutamate carries satisfaction. The feeling that a sauce is complete, a chip is worth one more handful. The science is straightforward. Glutamate unlocks the umami receptor. Pair it with 5 nucleotides like IMP or GMP and the effect multiplies. That synergy is why a sip of broth can feel like a meal and why a dusting on a snack can bend your will. Industry learned decades ago that 3 letters, MSG, could trip alarms on a label, even as the molecule itself was cleared at typical levels of use. So manufacturers took a side road that leads to the same place. They stopped talking about monosodium glutamate and started stocking their warehouses with ingredients that carry free glutamate naturally. Yeast extract made by breaking yeast proteins with enzymes, hydrolyzed vegetable proteins from soy or wheat, long-cooked tomato concentrates, mushroom powders, seaweed fractions. Put them together and you've built the same umami engine under a different hood. A micro-story from a factory floor. A snack brand loves the punch of their barbecue chip but hates the optics of MSG. The brief lands on a flavor house desk. Same crave, friendlier label. The flavorist maps the original. Sodium levels, heat processing, oil pickup, dusting adhesion. Then they swap the heart of the system, MSG out, yeast extract in, layered with a touch of disodium inosinate and guanylate to replace synergy, roasted onion for browning notes, and a smoked paprika fraction to round the mid-palate. In Pilot, the panel calls it even meatier. The bag now reads, no MSG added. The crave stays. Restaurants play the same chords. A ramen shop steeping kombu and katsuobushi extracts glutamate and nucleotides into the broth. No powder needed. A pizza place leans on a long-simmered tomato sauce and aged cheese to lift umami. Packaged foods take those kitchen truths and compress them into ingredients that travel and comply with rules. The receptor doesn't care if the glutamate rode in on a kelp infusion or a yeast extract spray-dried onto maltodextrin. It binds either way. Health narratives swirl around this aisle. Some people report sensitivity to MSG. Controlled studies and major reviews haven't found consistent effects at usual dietary levels, especially when consumed with food rather than as a bolus. The sodium piece is more concrete. MSG delivers saltiness with less sodium than table salt, which makes it useful for cutting sodium without losing impact. Yeast extract and HVP can do similar work, helping a soup hit deep while shaving milligrams. That's a legitimate benefit if it isn't used to hide how hard the rest of the formula leans on intensity. The real leverage is behavioral. Umami shortens the distance between first bite and second. It makes you linger. In sauces, it fills the hollow that low-fat formulas can leave. In plant-based meats, it stands in for browned collagen and dripping fat. A veggie burger reads burger because glutamate and nucleotides tell your brain to expect savory depth, even when the protein is pea or soy. Here, where language does heavy lifting. Yeast extract reads like bread and beer. Hydrolyzed sounds clinical, so it gets retired when possible. Natural flavors can cover reaction flavors built from amino acids and sugars, still natural when the inputs qualify that contribute roasted meaty notes. No MSG added is true in the narrow sense, no monosodium glutamate in the ingredient list, while the total free glutamate in the product might be higher than before. Labels address inputs. Tongues judge outcomes. Case study condensed. A canned soup line wants to hit a sodium target for a retailer program. First pass, cut salt by 15%. The soup tastes thin. The team adds yeast extract for mid-palate, a touch of disodium inosonate for pop, and tomato concentrate to raise natural glutamates. Sensory panel rates saltiness equal to the original at lower sodium. A shopper compares labels and applauds. The brand keeps the mouthfeel. The retailer gets the claim. The brain gets the same signal of satisfaction. There's craft behind the curtain. Glutamate alone can feel flat if you don't shape the attack and finish. Flavorists use Maillard-derived notes from natural amino acids and sugars to give a browned edge. They manage pH so umami doesn't fight acidity. They balance kokumi, those mouthfulness notes from peptides and amino acids, so the center of the flavor feels thick, not muddy. They test in real matrices, oil on chips, heat in retorts, freeze-thaw in entrees. Umami has to survive the journey. Myths persist. People conflate MSG with headaches. Others assume yeast extract is MSG in disguise.